Thank you, Mihal. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Mihal, for that warm welcome. And I'd like to offer a special thank you to Bank of America. We're competitors, but we're partners, and I respect them tremendously. Extremely generous to serve as our presenting sponsor for MBHP's Big Night, the Founders Celebration. So, Mihal, well done. Thank you. I'm delighted to serve as one of the co-chairs of the Founders event this year. My role is a series of thank yous, and then it'll be my honor to introduce our governor. Boston Private, our company, has long been a strong supporter of this organization, and it's absolutely terrific work to ensure high-quality, stable, affordable housing for low-income families and individuals, increasing economic self-sufficiency, and obviously enhancing the quality of their life. As we all know, there is no place like a home, and I'm very passionate about this mission. MBHP is not only a recognized leader in the Commonwealth, it's become a national treasure. It's a leader in the country on the deeply challenging topic of homelessness and how to make a difference with affordable housing. I'm also especially pleased that our company will finance MBHP's new home, and it's my honor, therefore, to be part of this celebration. We're very excited about this evening. Very grateful to John Hancock, including our board member Jeff Packard. What an amazing place. So thank you to Jeff and to John Hancock. Thank you also for years ago loaning us a certain staff person, now well known to all of you as our board co-chair, Cynthia Lacasse. So thank you, John Hancock. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you to my fellow co-chairs this evening. You've made this easy. Sandra Fenwick from Boston Children's Hospital. Hand for Sandra, please. John Hines from Boston Global. Thank you, John. I also want to thank the entire leadership committee. When we had our first organizing meeting, Chris said, we have an audacious goal. We're trying to go where we've never gone. We'd like to try to raise $250,000, and everybody gulped. Thanks to you all here in the room, we broke $325,000 tonight. I want all of you to savor what this means. This means that more than 20,000 families this year will be empowered as they move from homelessness to a home. I think that's something incredibly special, so well done to all of you. A couple of other thank yous. Special thanks to State Street for being a platinum sponsor, and for 33 years of partnership originating with Bill Edgerly, one of the most respected people in town, MBHP's founder. State Street remains a dear friend of this organization, and we expect great things from our incoming board member, Bob Kaplan from State Street. Boston Private, we're pleased to be a platinum sponsor, least we can do. Thank you to our gold sponsors, Boston Children's Hospital and event co-chair Sandra Fenwick, Chestnut Hill Realty, Eastern Bank Charitable Foundation, and our own MBHP board member, Charles Smith, NEI General Contracting, and MBHP co-chair Stephen Rioff. So thank you to all of you for your support of this evening. I also want to thank our public sector leaders and elected officials in the room. Too numerous to mention by name, and I mean no offense, but I'd like to give a collective thank you. I think it's fantastic in this moment that a very bipartisan group of leaders has come together to support MBHP and to salute tonight's honorees, Governor Baker and Mayor Walsh. Would all of our public sector officials and elected leaders raise their hands just so we can thank you for your work? like to ask any MBHP board members present to raise your hands and let us thank you for the leadership you're providing. One personal indulgence, but I have the mic. I want to salute my own Boston private colleague, Esther Schlorholtz, who's been on this board for 20 years. Well, let me now turn to the business at hand. Our first honoree tonight, almost everyone in the room, I've been blown away by this, has a deep personal affection for, memory of Lowell Richards. The Lowell Richards Award was first given posthumously to Lowell himself in 2012. Lowell was a member of MBHP's board for 29 years. Esther, he beat you by 9. You had 9 years to go. And you all know that he worked tirelessly to advance not only Boston broadly, but this particular organization. Following the initial award to Lowell, the board of directors was inspired to create a perpetual Lowell Richards Award, honoring his leadership and his life of service. The board decided that the qualities that Lowell brought to his professional life, his personal life, his volunteer roles, and all the things he did to have a positive impact on the city and on the Commonwealth were emblematic of behavior we should recognize each year with a very special award. MBHP, of course, looks to a future filled with challenges and opportunities, and we believe that these are challenges that Lowell himself would have looked upon with excitement and addressed very vigorously. Personal note, I had a chance to meet Karen tonight, Lowell's wife of many years. It was a special moment for me, and we had a nice chat, and she said, well, do you have any questions for me? And I said, well, just one. I said, tell me his story. And we had a great chat. And the thing she said, it started at Dartmouth. We met at Dartmouth, and while he was at Dartmouth, his dream was to have an impact on the city. And I just found that profoundly special. So Karen, I'm honored you're here tonight. Thank you. Lowell held many positions in the public and private sectors. His peculiar knack for bringing people together in a positive way, in a high-energy way, to achieve seemingly inconceivable projects and to make a difference proved invaluable through his career. This included his appointment by then Governor Bill Weld in the 1990s to serve as Assistant Secretary of Administration and Finance and Chief Development Officer for the Commonwealth. That was a fateful appointment. In that role, he began to work very closely with the administration's brash, brilliant, young Secretary of Administration and Finance, an up-and-coming young star named Charles D. Baker. Small world. Life kind of goes full circle. So here we are tonight honoring now Governor Charlie Baker. What better way to honor Lowell than to pass the torch to Charlie. Charlie Baker in some ways needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Charlie was recognized by the National Governors Association in 1998 with a Distinguished Service Award, reflecting his achievements during his tenure with the Weld administration. What an amazing time that was. I look at the Weld and White family tree represented in the room tonight. Pretty incredible period in the life of Boston and of the Commonwealth. Of course, following the Weld administration, Charlie moved into the private sector, took on a very tough job, the revitalization of Pilgrim Healthcare. He went in there as Chief Executive Officer at Harvard Pilgrim, took the company out of a very challenging period in a very challenging state to become the country's top-rated healthcare plan in terms of member satisfaction and clinical effectiveness. And I think noteworthy, one of Boston Business Journal's best places to work for 7 straight years. Phenomenal run at Harvard Pilgrim. When Charlie was elected to become governor of the Commonwealth in 2014, he signaled through his earliest appointments where he was going to go. Jay Ash, Massachusetts Secretary of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, Crystal Koingay as Undersecretary for the Department of Housing and Community Development, Mary Lou Sutters to head up the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. He signaled clearly that he was going to tap the best and the brightest from all sectors across the aisle to work on his commitment to make Massachusetts, quote, I went back and checked on this, Charlie said, we will make Massachusetts a truly great place to live, work, start a business, and raise a family, and this is the key, for all of its residents. Governor Baker has made good on this commitment. He's addressing the affordable housing needs of the Commonwealth. He's incredibly supportive of the work you all are doing at MBHP. And for this, I'm grateful, we're all grateful. Funding and maintaining high-quality affordable housing is critically important, not only for those directly in need, but also for the continued health and vitality of all of our communities and all of our neighborhoods. I'm extremely honored to invite Governor Charles Baker to join me and to accept MBHP's 2016 Lowell Richards Award. Governor. The most hazardous part of the program is the handoff of this highly fragile glass piece of art. Like the Stanley Cup, I'm not going to touch it, but Governor, you're free to handle the artwork. This is yours. This is yours. Thank you, Governor Baker.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jay. And let me just start by saying how much I enjoyed hearing Bill Edgerly honored and recognized for starting this. I had a conversation earlier today with some folks from the Boston business community, and one of the things people talked a little bit about was corporate citizenship. And honestly, it would be enormously difficult for somebody to come up with anyone who did a better job of exemplifying what it meant to be a true corporate citizen than Bill Edgerly at State Street Bank in the city of Boston for many, many years. Bill, I am so honored that you are here tonight. And I said to Clay that he kind of went over the top there with some of his comments, but he set the table up in a way that actually is kind of helpful. Because I thought a lot about what I might say tonight, and I'm not all that good at sort of blowing the horn. So, but you gave me an opening that I'm going to run through here. First of all, Karen, it's hard for me to put into words what it means to receive an award that's named after Lowell. And I'll say that for a couple reasons. The first is Lowell was older than me when I was that brash young kid that Clay was talking about, but he was also a lot younger in spirit, in energy, in imagination, creativity. I mean, the guy was truly a wild man. And I said to Karen earlier that there's a scene in one of the Apollo movies, which if you're over the age of 40, you may remember. If you're under the age of 40, you should Google Ed Harris and Apollo, and you'll see what I'm talking about. When Ed Harris brings this box out, they're trying to save these people who are on this, failed mission up in space. He brings this box out. It's just odds and ends, and he dumps it out on a table, and he says, okay, we have to turn this into an air filter. Frankly, that was kind of Lowell Richards with financial instruments and projects. I never saw anybody in my life who was more capable of getting more out of less than he was, and it was a pleasure and an honor to work with him. And there's a certain symmetry to the fact that you honor me with this award tonight, because the truth of the matter is, and Clay sort of hinted at this earlier, you know, I spent a lot of time sort of standing on the shoulders of Lowell Richards when he was the Chief Development Officer and he worked with me at A&F. But there's no question that a huge part of the creativity and the imagination that this administration has brought to housing and community development issues comes from the trifecta of Secretary Jay Ash, Undersecretary Crystal Cornegay, and Mass Housing Executive Director Tim Sullivan. They are simply three of the most creative, collaborative, and smartest and best people I've met in my career, and I've spent a lot of it in and out of the public and private sector and around a ton of really terrific talent. Crystal makes me call her Your Highness. It's true. And I do want to say that I appreciate the fact that during the course of the campaign I had a chance to visit MBHP, and we spent a bunch of time talking to families who are dealing with a lot of the issues associated with homelessness, and especially with the hotel and motel program, which one of the things we said as an administration we were going to do was get out of that business in an appropriate and managed way. And again, that's a great example of collaboration between a whole bunch of players, but especially Jay and HHS Secretary Mary Lou Sutters and the folks on their team. And there were 1,500 families in hotels and motels when we took office. There are around 230 now. And my guess is that by sometime around the end of the year, that number is going to be down to 0. And the reason that matters is a little bit along the lines of why housing generally and strong communities matter. Most of the people who are in those hotels and motels are completely disconnected from anything that looks like their support system. And I don't care how strong you are, or how tough you are, or how clever and creative and imaginative you are, we all benefit enormously from the support systems that are around us. And I think sometimes we underestimate the power and the importance. I was talking to somebody earlier of social capital and how much it's the relationships we have and the people we know and what they bring to our daily humdrum existence that translates into the security that makes it possible for us to all challenge ourselves and take chances. And I couldn't be happier that we are getting to the point where we're going to be out of that business. And I've always been one of these people who thinks that in the end, we are ultimately, in most organizations, a reflection of the folks that we work with and the way we work with others. And I think with the folks we've managed to put in place, you and we are extraordinarily well served by them. I also do want to congratulate Clay and John and Sandy for serving as co-chairs this evening. We couldn't have found a better group of corporate citizens to participate in that role. And Chris, obviously. And I want to thank MBHP for thinking of me, but as I said, I'm going to give most of the credit on that one to the really great people we've got working for us. I do have an opportunity at this point to introduce Rodney Johnson. Now, Originally, at this point in the program, I was supposed to introduce Victoria Collinette, but she's fallen ill and is not able to join us this evening, and obviously we wish her a quick recovery. So Rodney, to some extent, is what I would call a pinch hitter, to use a baseball term. And he's a pinch hitter who was asked a very few hours ago if he would be willing to join us. He's currently living in transitional housing and is on the brink of getting a place of his own. He started working with MBHP staff member Robert Buttman, who will be joining him on the stage momentarily, almost 3 years ago. And with Robert's help, Rodney's gotten a job at Primark and has made significant strides in his life as he reconnects with his 2 children, his church, and his community. And as I said before, Rodney, we really appreciate your willingness to join us tonight and to share a few thoughts. And obviously, everybody here wishes you nothing but the best. And again, Karen, it's very cool for me to be receiving this award. You honor me, you all do, with the recognition. And the final thing I want to say, because Clay did mention this as well, I take tremendous comfort from the fact that people in public life in the Commonwealth and in this city focus a lot more on the work and a lot less on the noise that passes for political discourse these days. Mayor Walsh arrived a few minutes ago, and I can just say point blank that I am really grateful to be able to have a chance to work with a guy like him and with the folks on his team. There is, elections are contests, everybody gets that, but when it comes to doing the work, I've never met anybody who's less partisan than the mayor, and it's really been a pleasure and an honor to have a chance to work with him and his folks, and I especially appreciate the chance to share this evening with him. But Rodney, the floor is yours.
Good evening. First, I would like to congratulate the honorees, Mayor Walsh and Governor Baker, and to say that thank you, Governor Baker. That made it a lot easier for me to come up here. Took off a lot of the stress. But my name is Rodney Johnson, and before I met Sylvia and Rob right here, I was going through some hard times. You could say I was a mess, emotionally and mentally. Mentally, when I say, I mean the way that I thought. I've got 2 years right now. I'm struggling with in recovery from alcoholism. And when I met Rob and Sylvia, it was at a meeting. It was called the Moore meeting down at the Faulkner Hospital, I believe. And they came there and they was talking about their program, MBHP, and what it is that they exactly do for people, and something stuck out to me about them, and I said, that's who I want to work with. And so after the meeting at the Faulkner, I went up to them and I introduced myself, and I just found out today, that they basically said that I came a long way. They've been there with me through the thick and the thin on this journey, this new journey that I've started. I had a slip, but that's a part of recovery, and they stuck there with me through it, and they didn't give up on me. One time I even had a collapsed lung. I don't know exactly how it happened, but it just collapsed on me spontaneously. And Sylvia, right there, she came up to the hospital and visited me in the hospital. And that was amazing. I was touched because, you know, she didn't have to do that. We have a professional relationship, but she went out of her way to come up there and to see me and to make sure that I was okay. Rob right here, he's the one that actually helped me to get the job at Primark. And they've just been there for me through everything, you know, and I'm extremely thankful for them. I consider them to be kind of my housing mother and my housing brother. You know, if you look closely, you might see a resemblance. But you know, they're just two awesome people, what they do, you know, and the program MBHP is just an awesome program. And, you know, now, you know, I'm continuing on this journey, you know, and I would just like to say, you know, I hope everybody has a good night, and thank you for having me.
President and CEO of Boston Children's Hospital and this evening's co-chair.
Good evening, everyone. Boy, they really did put me in between some very impressive people. First the governor, and then Rodney, and then to be followed by others. It's quite an honor to be here this evening, so thank you so much. I'd like to begin by first congratulating the governor for his and the mayor, who you'll hear from later, their incredible partnership and their unbelievable support for affordable housing. And obviously also to Rodney for your bravery and your perseverance. We're incredibly proud of what you've been able to achieve. I am obviously very happy to be invited to be a co-chair of this wonderful celebration today with Clay Deutsch of Boston Private, who also is a platinum sponsor, and John Hines of Boston Global Investors. But you may be wondering why the president of a children's hospital is here participating in an affordable housing awards ceremony. About a year ago, Boston Children's Community Advisory Board, including two people who are here tonight, Pat Flaherty from the Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services and Chris Anderson from the Fenway Community Development Corporation, began raising issues of affordable housing as a public health concern. And that coincided with what we were hearing from our own people, from our social workers, from our emergency unit staff, from our nurses, and some of our physicians. Actually, last Friday night, I got a call from one of the physicians running the emergency room, and he said we were absolutely just overloaded with kids first who came in, not just with medical conditions, but with complex behavioral problems. And he said on top of that, we have a family who's here with 3 children. They've been here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and now again on Friday night. They have no place to go, and they've been coming to the emergency room to spend the night. So we began looking into what role a pediatric hospital could and should play in the whole area of affordable housing. And I'm happy to say that we found a number of ways to contribute to the good work that has been done in this room for so many years. We joined the Healthy Food, Healthy Homes, Healthy Children Coalition to advocate for legislative remedies. We joined with the Massachusetts Law Reform Institute and Horizons for Homeless Children to better serve our homeless and housing insecure families by providing health care to the children and legal advocacy for and creating a menu of services for life-stabilizing services for not just children, but also for adults. And more recently, as our building that was just approved last week, the little controversial building that we are about to build, we were able to direct linkage funds generated by that clinical building to close a financing gap for the Mission Hill NHS's Roxbury Crossing project. That project will provide 45 units of affordable housing as well as space to house the new MBHP headquarters. And so we're looking forward to having them in the neighborhood. As I've learned more about the work that MBHP does, it's clear that our organizations have much in common, including the fact that many of our patients are your clients. You work to ensure that every family is housed, and we work to make sure that every child is well. And since stable, affordable housing is absolutely necessary and is a necessary prerequisite to good health, it makes perfect sense for Boston Children's to be partnering with Mission Hill NHS and supporting MBHP. So now, I would very much I'd like very much to turn your attention to the screens because you will hear a little bit about why investing both in affordable housing and in MBHP is such a great and important investment. Thank you.
Being homeless can happen from one moment to the next. You're doing great, and then shortly after you turn around and one thing happens and that can knock everything out of place, and you can find yourself homeless. I worked hard. I worked at 3 jobs and I still couldn't pay my rent. I was going to college so that I would be able to, be a better person and get a great job. I was doing what needed to be done and I still managed to find myself in that same situation.
I wanted to go back to iron work, and I couldn't. It was just too much on my back. I couldn't find a job making more than 14 or 15 bucks, if that. Rent is astronomical. I just didn't have the money. And the landlord, when he found out, he wanted me out. I had nowhere to turn. There was nowhere I could have went.
You don't have time to address the shock to your system because you're looking to see where you're going to sleep that night.
Simple things like getting a job, all of a sudden your talent and your skill went out the door because all they hear is, she lives in a shelter, you're homeless? No, thank you.
Man, when you move around and you disrupt a child's life, it's hard on kids.
You're not going to be in a healthy environment if you're constantly moving, if you're sleeping on couches, if you're living in shelters. If you're not healthy and if your kids aren't being educated, then the cycle just continues.
There was a period in my life that I just needed help, and MBHP gave me that.
MBHP changed everything.
MBHP's goal in providing families with housing that's safe and stable and secure allows them to get back on their feet, to pull the pieces back together, and to begin to take the steps forward that we know families want to take.
I remember the day she gave me the voucher and I was so excited. Getting that voucher just made such a huge difference. I felt like a person again. I felt like I could be proud to say that I was someone's mother.
Life just turned around. The job that Chris from MBHP gave me, that saved me.
You get one thing working for you, you can just move to the next thing and make it work, and make it work, and make it work.
Because my rent wasn't sky high, I was able to put away a tiny bit, very little, but every month I could put away a little bit of money so that I could have something in the future and, start to rebuild.
One of our most exciting programs is our Family Self-Sufficiency Program. The FSS program allows families to escrow and put aside a portion of their rent each month, and as their incomes increase, their savings increase.
I've saved money, and it feels fantastic. If I keep this pace up, I'll be able to move on and, hopefully buy something of my own.
Now the future is bright. Now I'm a homeowner. I have my daughter, I have my business. She will go to college and she will not be homeless at any point in time.
It's actually a life-changing event. If it wasn't for MBHP, I wouldn't have gotten this apartment. My mother, my son, and myself would not be together. For me, that's the biggest thing.
We're happy, we're together, we're a family. And it's because we had MBHP in our corner.
It changed my life. It changed my son's life. The future looks bright.
I'm excited that MBHP is going to be moving directly across the street from the college. It's going to be a shot in the arm for the community.
Having a modern office space that meets the needs of the folks that come to us, having it right next to public transportation, we're going to be far more accessible to the folks that seek assistance from us.
They're going to be providing workshops and support services for residents in our neighborhood, but also the people who are coming and being served are the kinds of people we want to attract back into our neighborhoods.
We're going to bring 155 new jobs to the neighborhood that didn't exist previously.
We're not just developing a building, we're not just developing a housing unit, we're developing a community.
You should support MBHP because the work that we do makes a difference in real people's lives every day.
Bet on MBHP, because we're it.
Yes, indeed. We really are building on mission, and thank you everyone for your help in getting us to where we are today. I also want to thank very quickly Chris Mariconi and Naila, who were featured in the video. Chris is here tonight, and Naila is working, so couldn't be here. Earlier this evening, Clay thanked all of our sponsors, and I want to echo that, but I'm not just here to thank people this evening. I'm here for another announcement, and being able to make it gives me great pleasure, especially with having Bill Edgerly here, Bob Whittlesey, many of our other founders that are here. But before I do that, I want to ask you to do one thing for me. You heard two stories in the video, and if you take a look at the family story booklet on your table, you'll read about a half a dozen others. But think of the impact that MBHP has on 25,000 families every year that we interact with and provide services to. People with disabilities, senior citizens, immigrants, single mothers, those who've fallen through the safety net. Many are employed. We hear a lot about workforce housing. Annual income of the families we work with are between $9,000 and $15,000 a year, and more than half of them have jobs and are working. Yesterday, HUD released a report, and it confirmed what most of us in this room already knew. Took them 8 years, but they got it done. And what they found was that long-term housing subsidies reduce homelessness and improve family well-being. Who knew? They also acknowledged that there are substantial benefits in addition to the housing, and that's something that Bill brought home early on when he talked about MBHP and the important role that Boston Housing Partnership was going to serve in moving beyond the bricks and mortar. And that's something that we've taken stock in and make sure that we do every day. We host this event every year to raise the flexible program funds that we need to run those programs that aren't funded by the government, that aren't funded by our contracts or grants. It fills the gaps to do things that we couldn't otherwise do. We also hold the event to recognize our history, because it's the history that allows us to honor the qualities and accomplishments that have gotten us to where we are today. But tonight, I invite you to look at the future with us. And for us, that future is at the foot of Mission Hill at Roxbury Crossing. And I also want to recognize Pat Flaherty and Ricardo Sanchez, who are here from Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services, right back over there. Even with the light in my eyes, I can see you, Pat. Tonight, we announced the public launch of our capital campaign, Building on Mission. And I'm very excited to be able to tell you that over the last 15 months, because of the hard work of our leadership committee and our board and many of you here, we've raised 60% of our $2 million goal. We've raised $1.2 million. If you haven't already, for those of you that were over at this bar that didn't have as many people, I encourage you to go to that far corner of the room before you head out this evening and take a look at the progress that we've made. Take a look at the model of the building. Take a look at the photos of where we've come. We actually have a foundation. We have a stairwell beginning. We have the beginnings of an elevator shaft. It is happening and it's moving forward. But we need your help to get the rest of the way. There are pledge cards that are being circulated. I hope you'll take a look at those and consider making an additional donation. I know you gave this evening for the programs, but we need your help to go the rest of the way on the building itself. And you can also fill out the pledge cards and ask for more information. If you're willing to host an event, have us come speak to your office. Have us come talk to your colleagues, friends. We're happy to do that. In the meantime, though, I want to close out our night by inviting our co-chair, John Hines, to introduce someone who knows quite a bit about producing and providing housing that is affordable for our lowest income residents, knitting together neighborhoods, and fostering community growth in this global city. John?
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everyone in attendance tonight, for your contributions, both financial and physical support to this great organization. I actually haven't been involved in this organization quite some time, since Lowell introduced it to me maybe 10 years ago, and I went to a few of these fundraisers with him, and I met him along the way at a series of functions and charrettes on Cape Cod. He used to do this thing every spring down the Cape. He was a great guy and passionate, energetic, just a great spokesperson for the city. He was awesome. He was awesome. We shifted gears in this venue. We started getting more active with Heading Home and a few other housing programs, and then a few months ago, my friend Don Conover, formerly of State Street, who sits on this board, thought it'd be a good idea that I got involved because of all the housing that we're doing in the Seaport right outside this building. And there's one thing that I've been passionate about. It's growing the housing stock in the city, both the luxury market, which we're involved in because that's what new construction is, and also the byproduct of that, and the 15 to 20% of that inventory that's getting dedicated to more affordable workforce housing. And the MBPH goes a little deeper than that, as you saw in the video. So I was asked to participate in this fundraiser. I was flattered to do it. I'm also grateful that I'm getting re-engaged with this organization because it has a very, very successful track record. It's not just the city, it's Metropolitan Boston, and they have a tremendous track record of success. And by the same token, I was surprised last week when I was told that I'm going to introduce perhaps the one person in this city that I couldn't be more proud of, Mayor Martin Walsh. As many of you know, Mayor Marty Walsh was born in the same Boston neighborhood where he lives today, which is Dorchester. And by the way, I keep saying this, Marty, but there are only two mayors that lived in Dorchester, Marty Walsh and my grandfather, John B. Hines, who served from 1949 to 1959. So I have a kinship with Marty Walsh. His life story is an amazing success. A son of Irish immigrants who grew up first as a construction worker and then went on to serve in the Massachusetts House of Representatives, following that successful career in the building trades, taking care of the construction industry as we know it. In 2014, he became our mayor with a primary purpose to fulfill his life's work to make sure Boston provides every child the opportunity to fulfill their individual dreams, like his. Marty's become one of the country's most dynamic mayors in the last 2 years. He has put all of us at the forefront of global innovation, job creation, safer streets, improved parks and recreation facilities, a better school system, and has recently been acknowledged and named to lead the U.S. Conference of Mayors Task Force to drive a national conversation on income inequality and affordable housing. In a region where the cost of housing is among the highest in the country, on day one, Marty started to make Boston a place where people could better afford to live. It became his primary initiative. His administration has brought civic and business leaders to the table, and he has put together a plan to make homes affordable for families and eliminate chronic homelessness in Boston from corner to corner. In only his first term, he has successfully initiated the movement of creating a new blueprint for a new Boston, which he has named Imagine Boston 2030. Whether the issue of developing and supporting housing for people with the lowest incomes, or operating the best schools for kids, protecting workers and creating new jobs, providing quality health care and mental health, marriage equality, or helping people struggling with substance abuse, Mayor Marty Walsh manages to lead Boston through a myriad of challenges using his God-given gifts of vision, intellect, compassion, and pragmatism. Therefore, I could not be more honored and pleased on behalf of MBHP to invite Mayor Martin J. Walsh to accept the 9th Annual Founders Award.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for that very nice introduction, and thank you for all that you do. I want to thank just a few people. I want to thank Sandy and Clayton as well for being the co-chair of this nice event. I want to thank Michal Chamberlain from Bank of America. I want to thank, we're joined by State Representative Kevin Honan, who's the chair of the Housing Committee at the State House, who's done this for a long time. Chris and Sue certainly know Kevin, and Kevin has shepherded through the legislature at least 2, maybe 3 big housing bills, maybe more than that, but thank you, Kevin, for that work. I want to thank Chris and Sue for your great work at the agency. I've known this agency for a long time because prior to me being mayor of the city of Boston, I was a state representative, and during budget time, Chris was a frequent flyer in the office, and when we couldn't file amendments, I would file the amendment, and we would try and get it through. And oftentimes Kevin would say, Marty, you have to file the amendment because I'm the chair of housing, so we'd find ways of doing that stuff. So I want to thank you for that. Cynthia, I want to thank you and the entire board for this great evening. This isn't about me, and the governor said it earlier. It's not about him. It's about us. It's about what can we do collectively to create opportunities. Those stories that you saw, and thank you, Local 7 America. You know, God love you for the tough work you're doing and in your speech here tonight. Rodney, it's a day at a time. Where's Rodney? Did he leave? A day at a time, Rodney. One day, one time is what you do. One day at a time, it gets better. Congratulate Rodney for first of all coming up here and speaking the last minute. You did an incredible job. No notes, by the way. If you notice, we had no notes, and I have notes, so good job. But really, you know, the video said it all, and what Metropolitan Housing does brings dignity to people and bring dignity back to families, people who are down on tough times, and we have to continue to support this agency and work together. As I look around the room, I could shout out so many different people who build affordable housing or who create affordable housing or who take care of our homeless population. One of the things when I became mayor, we said we need to build more housing in Boston, and I was fortunate to inherit an unbelievable housing advocate as mayor. Sheila Dillon was the head of D&D. And I asked Sheila, I said, Sheila, I need you to stay. And Sheila was like, yes. And I'm not sure what was going on in Sheila's mind at that particular moment. She was probably thinking, we have a new administration. There's a lot of new faces around the table. They're really committed to this. And Sheila and her team and a lot of other people sat down at a table and started to put together a housing plan for the city of Boston. And we geared the housing plan towards creating 53,000 units of new housing by the year 2030. And so we were planning for a long term how we're going to do this. And already 19,000 units are under construction, 22 more thousand have been approved for development. That's a total of 41,000 units in a year and a half, 76% of our goal. When we talked about housing, we looked at all different areas, and we looked at low-income targets and moderate-income targets, and we're hitting our low-income targets. In 2014 and 2015, we both were able to set records for 1,000 units each of those years of low-income housing being built and created in the city of Boston. We're working on all of those things because when Chris calls, or when somebody goes to see Chris for a house, a home, Chris needs to find a place for those people to live. And if we don't have a place for those people to live, then we're at a situation where some of those folks will end up either with us at Southampton Street or maybe with Amy Coolidge at Pine Street Inn or Rosie's Place and other places. And so what we're doing here is really, really important. The next struggle we had in the city was that 2 years ago I had to close the Long Island Bridge, and people criticized me for it. I didn't want to close Long Island Bridge, but we had to close Long Island Bridge because it was literally collapsing into the Atlantic Ocean. The week after we closed it, one of the light towers fell on the bridge, and then a chunk fell into the ocean, and we had to close the bridge. And it was a difficult period in the city of Boston. It was a difficult period because, not because I was getting people upset that we closed the bridge, it was difficult because we had about 500-600 guests that went out there every single night that their life was disrupted. That was the difficult part about it, not people yelling at me about it, not about the stories written in the paper. It was about what about the folks that lived out there, and we had to find a temporary place. So we found a temporary shelter to be able to house the folks that needed a home for a winter. And then we stumbled into transportation. The city's transportation department had this beautiful kind of warehouse. It wasn't beautiful, but this warehouse. And I said to them, well, we got to move you, and we moved them out in 2 weeks, and we built a homeless home basically for individuals. And we sat down at a table because people came to me, activists came to me and saying we need to do more, and thanks to a lot of people in this room, Sheila led the effort with some other folks and said, okay, what's going on with the homeless population in Boston? We have Chris trying to house folks. we don't really have a plan when it comes to the city. We have a lot of great people working, but we need to do more. So we're able to put together a task force to deal with the homeless population in the city of Boston. When I say deal with them, I mean help them. And in 2015, we were given a challenge by Michelle Obama to end chronic veterans homelessness in the city of Boston, and all of the providers. I'm giving everyone credit. It's not me. It's all of you. I think we identified 460 chronically homeless veterans in Boston, and by the end of 2015, we housed 250 chronically homeless people in the city of Boston, and we're moving on a pathway. If you're a veteran and you're homeless, you have a system now to get into shelter, into a home, not a shelter, into a home. And then we said, okay, what can we do about the homeless population in the city of Boston? What more can we do? And from January 1st to now, we've housed 186 chronically homeless people in the city of Boston that were on the streets this year. When the year started, they were on the streets, and now they're in a home. And we're going to continue to work that. MBHP was a leading partner in that, in finding homes for folks. We created what's called a housing surge, working with the state and the federal government and the city and everyone else about vouchers. And I had the chance, I don't mean to go on too long, I'll stop in a minute, but this is important. So yesterday, I had an opportunity to go meet a gentleman who was on the street for 17 years. I went to his house. He got through the surge. We went into the room, and I said, "How are you doing?" He goes, "I want to thank you for getting me a home." So I said, "How long have you been on the home for? On the street? How long were you on the street for?" He goes, 17 years, on and off. There's a picture of his mother on a mass flyer. I said, "Who's that?" And he says, "My mom. She died actually 20 years ago." So he's on the street basically after his mom died. And I said to him, "Is there anything I can do for you?" He said, "I want to thank you." And I walked into his apartment, and in his apartment he had a bed, he had a bookcase, he had a table, he had a couple of chairs, he had a TV, and he had some holy relics in the room. And he was grateful. He was grateful, and I left there knowing that, we've had a great year this year in Boston. GE's coming to Boston. We're wiring the whole city of Boston. We have $8 billion worth of development. We have all great growth. First time in history, we have more level 1 and level 2 schools and level 3 schools. We have a great story to tell. But that day yesterday made me feel as good as anything I've done in my political life, because I know that a lot of people in this room worked hard, and we have to continue this hard work to continue to move forward. I have more to say. The night is late. I just want to thank Chris. I want to thank you for this recognition. I certainly don't deserve this, but I appreciate it. But on behalf of everyone that works with me in City Hall and everyone in this room, whether you simply wrote a check or you're an intake coordinator, whatever you do, thank you. We're not there yet, but we're going to continue to work every single day to make sure when people need an opportunity, when they pick up the phone and they call Chris and Sue, there's an opportunity for a bed. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Cynthia Lacasse, and on behalf of my co-chair, board co-chair Steve Ryoff, and myself, I want to thank everybody, the governor and the mayor and all the public officials for your leadership, our co-chairs and our sponsors for all your support, our clients, especially Chris, Rodney, and Naila, for your courage and perseverance, our staff for all of the hard work that you do every day, and especially those of you who work very hard to put this event on. And yes. And really, from the bottom of my heart, to each and every one of you for all your support. And thank you again very much, and have a great evening.